Hello and welcome back to Buck the Trend podcast. I'm Matt Nartiv.
And I'm Steph Clutterback.
And firstly, I just want to apologise because if I sneeze in this show or itch my eyes or cough or anything else, it's the hay fever currently.
So Matt gets really bad hay fever. His eye is currently so red.
Yeah, if you can see on YouTube, you can probably see.
Yeah, it's like a bright red bulb.
But yeah, really struggling with hay fever at the moment. And
Didn't help that you mowed the grass. You didn't mow the ground. You mowed the grass yesterday.
yeah, kicked up a lot of pollen. And then we went for a walk earlier, so that probably hasn't helped.
No, definitely not. So yeah, he may sneeze. He may stand up and run out of the room. We'll see. I don't think I'm going to be quick enough at turning off his microphone if he does sneeze. Just like fling it away from you.
Yeah, I'm more worried about itching my eyes to pieces, to be honest. But
yeah, if by the end, those that are watching on YouTube, Matt literally has no eyes left, it's because he's itched them so much they've swollen.
yeah. But anyway, on with the show.
On with the show.
So last week, Steph, we didn't really have many answers, but we excuse me,
It's starting.
I know. We didn't have many answers, but we kind of had a direction we were going. Obviously, we didn't race Hamburg, or you didn't race Hamburg, sorry. I certainly didn't race Hamburg.
It's a we, but you also didn't. Yep.
This week we've had a few more answers. Do you want to just give us a bit of an
update?
update?
I think actually what I want to do is take us back.
Okay.
And tell a story.
Let's rewind.
Boys and girls.
How far we went?
So I think, how far is dependent on whose theory you believe. But I reckon let's go back about 3 years because it's all important context. And, okay, I'm not going to tell you. Actually, no, I am. Conclusion of the story. Advocate for yourself relentlessly. Your body, you know your body better than anyone else does. And if you think something is wrong and fight for it. So 3 years ago-ish, I think it was like Christmas of 2021, January of 2022, I got COVID for the first time.
As did probably many people.
As to so many other people. So this is why it's important context to the story, because it's something that we all dealt with. And it feels like a million lifetimes ago, and I'm sure for some people it's still quite raw. But I caught COVID, and I was largely asymptomatic. So when I was reading all of these stories about long COVID, first cough. I'm going to keep a tally. No, I'm not going to keep a tally. I was asymptomatic, so I read all these stories about long COVID, and I was like, well, that's not going to be me, because basically I had like feverish, flu-y symptoms, like my skin felt really hot and I was cold and my heart rate was elevated. But beyond that, like I didn't really have any other symptoms. I then caught it again a year later and had a very similar experience. Like I was super tired and had changes in heart rate and changes in body temperature, but that was kind of it. And I was able to return to training and didn't really think anything of it. Fast forward to kind of midway through last year, I would say, I started to notice that my body was not behaving in a way that was suggesting that I was fitter than I had ever been before. So my heart rate, which is supposed to decrease year on year, was increasing for the same relative effort, which suggests that you're getting less fit. I was finding walking upstairs harder, and I was starting to fail sessions and get tired in a way that over the kind of 20 years in sport before, I had never experienced. And I kind of just put it down to like, I pushed my body to a place that I've never been before, so that's kind of why. September last year, I had my first distinguishable moment, I suppose, of chest pain. It came alongside an elevated heart rate of 30 and a period of super intense fatigue to the point that I couldn't actually train at all. So this was just before Chattanooga. I went to the doctor. She looked at me like I had 8 heads when I told her that my resting heart rate should not be 70, it's actually 40. And sent me away with a diagnosis of gastritis, which is absolutely not what was going on at all. And we continued resting and I actually was fine to race. So raced Chattanooga and obviously everything went really well. And then I forgot. Like, we have really short memories as athletes. Like, I forgot that there was a problem.
And I think having had the success and the recovery from it quite quickly, it's easy to forget.
Well, yeah, I didn't think anything was wrong.
Had you had the opposite effect and had a really bad race and felt even worse afterwards, we probably would have pursued it more, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So I felt great after Chattanooga, and I was back into training quite quickly. Raced Portugal 70.3 3 weeks later. Horrendous. As in, it was super hard to race that close to an Ironman, but really glad I did it. 2 weeks later, I ended up in hospital with chest pain. So I dived into a swimming pool, and it felt like a knife had been dug into my chest. The pain was so intense, and I couldn't breathe, and my entire body was basically limp. Like, I was so weak, and I dived in, swam 100 meters to check that I wasn't making it up. So the pool is 50 meters, so I did 2 lengths. Got out. I sat on poolside for, I think it was about an hour, and with the lifeguard, who, I mean, they're not medical professionals, but kind of told me that maybe I was just pushing myself a little bit too hard. Drove myself home, rang my mum. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that does this. I always ring my mum. When my mum or my dad, if I have a question about something that I don't know the answer to, or it's something medical, they are the first people that I call. And they said to go straight to A&E, which is our accident and emergency services for like walk-ins. So I rang 111, which is what you're supposed to do, which is our online service, because they then basically admit you to A&E. Went to A&E, and we were seen so fast, because I'm a young person presenting with chest pain, so they moved me through quite quickly. And I had 2 ECGs and 2 rounds of bloods done. About 6 hours later, I started to feel better. So 6 hours after the onset of pain. And by the next day, I was totally normal. And the ECG hadn't shown anything massively of note, and the bloods hadn't shown anything of note. So I was promised a referral through our National Health Service, and they said it would probably be in, it could be 1 to 3 months. But so I was like, okay, that's fine. By January, I'll have heard something. Carried on as normal. Obviously, 4 weeks later, I crash and get a concussion. So we then I had a period of rest because the season was over and I was concussed. Get back into training, and everything seemed fine. January came, I had no referral. February came, no referral. March came, no referral. April came, no referral. And I'd by this point forgotten about it. Like, I forget where I leave my phone. So there was no chance that I was remembering that I was waiting for a letter to tell me to go and see a specialist. Middle of May, I was out on a hard run, and I was in carbon shoes, and they're brand new shoes, and I was running, and I was thinking, I'm going to have to tell Matt these shoes are terrible. Like, there's just no feedback at all. That this foam is doing nothing. I'm just sinking into the floor. Like, where's the bounce that you usually feel in carbon shoes? These are absolutely awful. And then I started the efforts, and still I was like, God, I just feel so flat. Like, the shoes aren't giving me anything. This is terrible. And then I couldn't breathe properly, and I was like, that's right, I'm just a bit tired. And then the chest pain started. So the difference was I was working at threshold when this happened, and it was like someone had gripped my heart and was squeezing it. I sat on the floor. 5 minutes later, my heart rate was still elevated over 120. So got myself home. We went into hospital, and again, it was similar to the ECGs from last time. Like, there were some things, but nothing of note. This time, my heart stress hormone was elevated a little bit, so they weren't that happy about that. They were very apologetic that I hadn't received a referral letter yet. But basically, I got in contact with a specialist at that point, because I was like, in the context of the last 3 years, I've been feeling like my body is rejecting exercise and my ability to train is decreasing. And I've now had 3 separate incidents of chest pain. This is like my body. I get one of these and I push it to the limits. Something is not right.
Yeah, and not just a specialist, because all of these guys are specialists, let's be honest. it was a specialist with
Elite sport.
Elite sport, I think, is probably...
Yeah.
Because your limits tend to be a little bit more.
Yes.
And the awareness of your body.
Yeah, exactly. So like I feel my heart beating all the time, which I have since learned is not normal, even for athletes, but I can. And like I feel everything. I notice everything. I know when I'm normal tired, and I know when I'm not normal tired, and I know when something's injury sore or just training sore, and I know when my brain is anxious or when it's just tired or when it's foggy. Like I've built this hyper awareness of everything that's going on in my body. So when I know that something is not right, I need to fight for that. So that's the last 3 years. The last week, it's been exploratory. Is probably the best way to put it, isn't it? So that initial specialist, he was a cardiologist, is a cardiologist, sports cardiologist. Went to see him, and I've had loads of tests done. So we've had a whole raft of loads of different types of tests, not just focused on my heart, but kind of respiratory and general wellness as well. And they are all still ongoing. So we don't really have any definite answers, but we're kind of getting there. So went to see him. He raised questions about non-cardio related issues and referred me to his friend, who is also one of the best in his field in like respiratory issues in athletes. Well, I mean, they're extra exercise related respiratory issues. So not just athletes, but like he sees a lot of athletes. So the cardiologist is local to us. Respiratory specialist, we had to go to London.
Yeah, and I think the long and short of it, really, of what we think so far. And look, we're not there yet. We don't know exactly what's going on. Still to be determined, and the process of what happens next. But the long and short, we think that potentially some illness, whether it's COVID or another
a viral illness, basically.
Viral illness, has sort of left its mark on your sort of heart and respiratory system.
Yeah. So heart, respiratory system, central nervous system has been attacked by a virus and reset itself incorrectly, is the way that it's been described to me as someone that knows absolutely nothing about the body. I didn't take PE A level, so or biology, like my knowledge of the human body from an anatomical point of view is negligible. But basically, my body internally is not working in the way that it should, and the likely cause of that is a virus. We have a number of more tests to come to see how incorrectly my body is working, which will then determine our next steps. So today is Wednesday and we've been in London. We've come away with more of an action plan than I think either of us anticipated. So like we've got stuff that I can do now that will make me feel like I'm making progress. 'Cause resting for an undefined period of time with no defined outcome is like my worst nightmare. Whereas I've got actionable things that I can be doing every day that will help me with this recovery and with this reset, essentially, that I need to do internally so that I can go back to performing externally.
And I think you can get, obviously you want to get the opinions of these specialists, which is wonderful, and it's exactly what you need. And I think not being afraid to get a second opinion as well is always quite one thing we've learned. Obviously there's been potentially misdiagnoses along the way.
Twice, 2 separate ones.
Which, through no fault of their own, it just, like I say, some things just need a bit more exploring. And a lot of the time, you know your body better than anyone, and it can be quite easy to misdiagnose your own symptoms, and that to come across to the person you're trying to tell them to. So I think having a second sort of opinion on things can really help. I think that's something we do differently next time.
Yeah, for sure. I think clearly that September to November period last year, I was not okay. And after that, so in September, I should have gone to A&E with chest pain. because that would have fast tracked where we are, because the recommendation for this specialist came through one of the doctors that was in the NHS. And I'd have fought for that. Equally, I'd have just gone private immediately. So we have moved away from the public health service because it just doesn't provide the service, quite rightly so, doesn't provide the service that I need. The way that our National Health Service works, it is absolutely phenomenal if your life is in danger. It cannot be faulted. It is amazing. For someone like myself, where my life is not in danger, I'm not a priority.
Yeah, which is fair enough.
Which is absolutely fair enough. I shouldn't be a priority
but
to
then,
anyone but myself. Like, I am a priority to me, and I would like to know what's wrong. So it is right that I go private, and it is right that I go and find the specialists in their field within my specific context, because I need their knowledge. Because even if I was pushed through on the NHS, I would be seeking advice from someone that doesn't have the full context of what it means to be an elite athlete and what our bodies deal with. So like one of the things that I'm dealing with at the moment is something to do with breathing, which apparently affects 5% of the population, but 30 to 40% of athletes.
I guess that's because you notice it more as an athlete. If you were to, I say normal life, what is a normal life? But if you were to live a 9 to 5 and maybe go for a jog once or twice a week or a walk, you probably would notice it.
No, maybe not. But I think also the way that we push our bodies causes us to develop incorrect patterns of movement and behaviour. And when it's something like breathing it's a reflex, if you train that enough to do it incorrectly, it just happens. So I wonder if that's part of it. But yeah, so it was the right decision for us to go private. I wish we'd done it earlier. Like I said, we have theories, I guess, at the moment, from various specialists, and we've got a couple more tests. So I think what I'm looking forward to hearing is certain things are definitely ruled out,
Yep.
and certain things are a yes. That is present. That is what we're working with, and this is the action plan to deal with it.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Is when can we start back properly into having a plan of, I don't know, when the next race is, for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
And what that looks like and how we get there.
Mm.
And that's kind of the fun part of it, isn't it? It's, like I say,
yeah,
everyone who gets knocked back in sport is sort of how you deal with it.
And what I'm excited about is there is a real chance that I've never done triathlon to this level without what my body is dealing with right now. Because I if it is COVID related or viral related, I was very well before my Portugal win. It's from that point that we've noticed that things are starting to not add up. So that's from 2021. How great is it going to feel when my body is working like it should? Like, how great is that going to be? Apparently, heat intolerance is one of the symptoms of this. Imagine if I'm not worse at dealing with heat than I thought. It's just that right now my body won't, but it will once I've sorted this.
Well, there's a claim. You're going to feel like a penguin in Kona now.
Yeah, I'm going to be cold. Yana, I'm going to be shivering in Hawaii. You watch. But there's just... so today for me has actually provided a lot of clarity and explanation as to why I've been feeling the way that I've been feeling over the last couple of years. I'm really hopeful that we can sort this. It won't be easy. Like, it's a retraining of my internal systems within my body, which I'm sure sounds like really hocus pocus, but like there's actually a medical explanation and a diagnosis for it. We're just not going to share that right now because we want to have the final answers before like making random claims. But the consultant specialist, respiratory specialist, is like pretty certain that this is what it is. We've just got a few more data points to collect for him.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things that he wants to explore with the cardiologist, which is the next round of tests that we're doing. So there's a few more things, like just a few more things before we say, yeah, this is what's going on. But how cool, like how great.
Yeah. And also that's all we've got at the moment until we've got a plan of, and then we can start talking about how we're going to build that back and what that looks like. and I'm sure there'll be ups and downs along the way through that. But yeah, that's where we're currently at. So there's going to be no racing on the immediate horizon. We're in the 11th of June currently, so we'll see what that looks like over the next, whether it's weeks, whether it's months.
Yeah, so I think that's it. Right now, we don't know whether it's weeks
Days,
or months
weeks,
or days.
months,
Like we have no idea about timeline. Like we could get a call tomorrow and be like, yeah, everything's fine, off you go.
Yeah, and the good thing is we've obviously pulled back currently on training. You haven't had any symptoms now for a good amount of time. Well, you started to not have any symptoms.
Some days.
Yeah. So at least that's hopefully a bit of a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, that's a big update on the last couple of years and equally the last week, but also what we're hoping to see next. So I don't know if next week anything will have changed, really, just because we haven't taken the next round of tests that we need to. And obviously there's like a delay between taking the test and getting the results, the specialist seeing them, us being fed back, and then us processing it and figuring out what on earth all of it means. So
next week, back to normal triathlon topics.
Normal triathlon stuff.
I suppose you can thank you to all the people who've reached out and sent kind messages and whatnot. I've seen it from your reactions a lot of the time. There's been a lot of nice messages and
it really means so much, because I will not lie, the last week has been, the last month's been pretty hard. The last week's been really, really challenging, because I've gone from being in an Ironman block and leading up to the European Championships with so much promise and so much excitement that maybe my body would pull up and I'd be fine, to then being told that I need to rest and I need to limit exercise and I need to limit stress on my body. And I've been there before. Like, I've done the whole back injury thing that affects all sorts of stuff going on, and I know that me not doing anything isn't good, and it's terrifying being told that again when this isn't just a hobby. Like, this is the career that we're choosing to make and I've chosen to make, and I can't do it. Like, I can't do the thing that gets me better, or at least gets me like physiological improvements, because it's bad for my body.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot on the line as well. Like you say, it's your profession now. Like, that's where you make money a lot of the time from. Like Hamburg, for instance, you missed out on potential swim bonuses. You missed out on potential prize money.
Yeah.
Sponsor bonuses. Like, there was a lot riding on these races for you.
Yeah.
And for that to be taken away for something that you can't quite see or put your finger on,
and that's it. It's
and no fault of your own, is quite difficult.
It's invisible, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's not like a calf tear where, quite often you can see a tear because it bruises, but day to day, there's there's chest pain, but there's no pain. It's not like I tried too hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's 2 days later, I'll figure out that I did too much because I'm asleep on the sofa all day.
Yeah.
And my heart is going mental and like I can't breathe. And it's just like, it's a huge challenge. And I've had friends that have had chronic fatigue, and I've had fellow athletes that have had various kind of issues that have and you always think, it's not going to be me, because I did recover well, and on like the low level inflammation, I was recovering really well. Like, I sleep brilliantly. I'm so good at sleeping. It is definitely a superpower. I've never had issues with eating either. I've never had red S. My hormones have always been regulated, much to Matt's thrill. Every month I get really angry, but like, everything has always worked. My body has always worked on a surface level, and I just didn't imagine that there was something that was so deep-seated going on that I didn't notice either. Like, how have I not noticed my body change the way that it works entirely?
Yeah, and it's difficult because everyone's experience of injuries, illness, is all completely different, and everybody's recovery is completely different. Nothing really looks the same.
No.
Everyone's completely different. And I think for me to see it from the outside a bit more, it's been really difficult that everything else just moves on, and where you feel like you're standing still or almost going backwards in that period. And it's so hard to sort of mentally deal with that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's exactly the same. And everyone's been there. Everyone's had injuries. Everyone's had illnesses. And I'm sure they've felt exactly the same type of feelings. But it's very, very difficult to watch everything else move whilst you feel like you're stagnant and not getting answers and just essentially just on hold.
I mean, and it's not like I think last week when we had our first... Oh, yeah, it was last week. What day is it? Yeah, last
Wednesday
week.
today.
Yeah, when we had our first... Sorry, I have no idea. When we had our first appointment, I felt like we'd gone backwards.
Yeah.
Because he raised this issue that I didn't even know was a thing. And I'm like, I came into you to like check my heart, and now you're telling me that there's something else, and then you're also telling me you don't know what's causing this. Like, this is insane. Which is part of the process. Like, I would have respected him so much less if he'd been like, yes, I'm going to fix you and wave my magic wand and ta-da.
Yeah. You want to go in there for the magic pill. Like I say, it's like training. Everyone wants the silver bullet that's going to get them to the top straight away.
Not one.
And there isn't one. And it's the same with this. And I think you've just got to trust the experts. They are the experts for the reason.
Yeah.
And listen to them and ask questions. Not be afraid to ask questions. And try and just work out those answers together.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, advocate for yourself. If you know something is wrong, shout about it until someone listens.
Yeah. If you feel like something's wrong, there often probably is something wrong.
And gather data as well. So I think that's something that we were doing before going to see these specialists. I was taking notes every day of the symptoms that I was experiencing. And went like back in time as well, and I was like, these are moments that I distinctly remember not feeling right, and therefore should be taken note, because it's not me working like I would normally, like it's not me existing like I'd normally exist. So yeah, shout about it and gather as much data as you can, because it will be useful. Some of the questions I was asked today, I was like, how on earth is this relevant? And then it turns out that it's like a symptom of this random thing that I didn't even know about. And it's like, oh, well, that is really important data. And there are people out there that are able to put the puzzle pieces together and are willing to help you. You've just got to find them.
Yeah. Yeah, so, well, I guess we can kind of wrap that up a little bit. But what do you do now?
Yeah, so...
How do you keep busy?
How do I keep busy? So the other side of this, like, professional triathlon life is running the business, and a lot of that is finding sponsors and partners to collaborate with on Instagram and other kind of media outlets. So that's kind of what I'm using this time to do, is basically together, both of us working on proposals and stuff to send out to brands and have conversations, whether that's to like land this year or early next year, like just getting ahead of it. And I don't often have this headspace where I'm not tired from training, like normal tired from training. So why not utilize it?
Yeah, and it's a good time that I can tap into Steph's brain a bit more and utilize her a bit more, because
I'm much more patient now because I'm not about to fall asleep.
Yeah, but also the creativity comes out a bit more because we've got time to actually think about it and sit down and talk about it and plan it.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's like our own planning stuff. So like trying to make sure that I'm present at races, even if I'm not racing, and being involved in the media, and obviously being on Pro Tri News is just so much fun. So invite me back, guys, please. And doing stuff like that is like super, I love doing. I absolutely love it. I think it's really important to be driving female voices within triathlon anyway, but also keeps me busy. And I can't tell you the planning that I've done without being asked for some of these things. And I'm never going to send it to anyone because they never need to know, but it's kept me busy. So that sort of stuff. And eventually my energy levels will feel good enough that I am going to paint a room in this house. It happens every time.
I'm not going to let you do that.
I really want to panel downstairs and like the bottom half of our like I can't remember the word.
We're not a DIY show though, so don't worry about
hallway, and then paint it.
Okay, well, maybe we'll see.
Matt says no. I really want to, but I don't have the energy to do that just now.
There's also the scenario planning side of things that you've done. So we've got a few scenarios that have potentially for what the next bit looks like, whether that's race calendars, training potential things that you can do in that period. So we've got like not an A, B, and a C, but like a best case, worst case.
I think we've got an A to Z plan at the moment.
Yeah, that's true.
And this rest time, I'm quite optimistic won't last that long.
Yeah.
Just because I've noticed quite a big difference in the last couple of days. So I'm hopeful that it will move quite swiftly and then I can get back to a very gradual, phased return to training. Don't you worry, that has been drummed into me today. No end.
And here's a question. What could Steph be doing with her time?
No stupid answers.
Well, there will be some stupid answers. But what I don't know. What would you do with the time if you were a professional triathlete and you had spare time on your hands now? Obviously, the rehabbing, the usual general life stuff that you do anyway. But what would you be doing with that time? And maybe, I mean, there might be some good answers.
Yeah, give me some ideas, please. Because my list of stuff is going to run out pretty fast.
So yeah, that could be quite interesting. So
yes.
give us your thoughts.
Send them through.
You can keep it private. It can be a DM. Feel free to do what you want, or put it public on YouTube, Spotify, or whatnot.
Yeah. # keep Steph entertained.
So yeah, that's sort of a big dump of what's been going on, I guess.
A lot of stuff.
So yeah, TBC. It's not all bad news. It's not all good news, but it's.
So I'd say none of it is bad news. Like I alluded to this on my Instagram post this week, that we have had some really good news in that my heart hasn't changed. As in, I don't have to quit triathlon. We know that. So we're going into this round of tests knowing that, which is really wonderful. The neutral news is basically everything else. That's like, it's all fixable, but we don't know timeframes. So it's kind of neither good, neither bad. I haven't had any news that's been like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with that. It's all just been like, this is manageable. You're going to be okay. We just don't know when yet.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think, like I say, moving to next week, I don't think there'll be any updates from us, really. So if you've got any topics you'd like us to go through.
Yeah, anything you want to hear about, even if it's just, Steph, can you run through everything that you've done in the last 7 days?
Yeah.
That would be fun. But yeah, anything that you want to hear. Like, obviously, I've got loads of time to plan podcasts now.
Yeah, well, this will drop tomorrow morning. So you've got from Thursday morning till
Wednesday
to let us know any good topics along the way.
We do have some What the Buck shout outs
from
you that you sent in.
We asked last week
for
people to give their own What the Buck moments of the week.
Yeah.
Be proud of achievements you've done through the week, month, year.
Yeah.
And we'll give them a quick shout out.
And the first one is Tom Leitcher, sorry if it's Leitcher, who is racing the ITU Long Distance World Championships in a couple of weeks, and his tri-suit got delivered this week, which is so exciting. I think getting your first national vest is just, like, it is a dream come true for so many people, like, representing your country, and whether it's the country that you live in now or the country you were born in or, you know, the country that your family have resided in, it's your opportunity to represent something that means so much to you. So I love it. And good luck.
And people work so hard for that. So yeah, congratulations.
And the last one is Catherine
also,
Hart. Yes.
Is that not in Australia, the race, the World Champs, or am I making that up?
I can't remember.
Well, maybe Tom can let us know.
Yeah, the mid-distance ones might be.
I'm sure I saw...
The long was last year, was in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah, I get confused with the ITU long-distance ones and stuff.
Tom can let us know.
Yeah, please do. Catherine Hardy was nominated by somebody. So could you get the message up on your phone, please? Because we've got a whiteboard in the background and I was running out of space, so I couldn't put the whole message in. But Catherine Hardy is running 5 marathons this year, raising money for youth sports in South Africa, which I just think is absolutely amazing. Because as someone that grew up in sport, like I know how much it can give people, and I did have the privilege of doing sport in South Africa when I was there for 6 weeks on an exchange, and it was just so much fun. So the fact that this is it's an initiative that is driving more of that, I think is brilliant. So Gideon nominated her. Thank you, Gideon. Nominated his sister, and it's Project 266. If anyone wants to pop it into Google, she's running 5 marathons, including Boston, London, Berlin, and the Comrades Marathon, which is in South Africa. It's supposed to be super hard. I think actually, is that the one where they alternate the course each year, so it's a point to point, and 1 year it's uphill, 1 year it's downhill?
I don't know,
but I think
sounds
it's
quite cool.
I think it's a trail. It's hard. Like, it's even the downhill's like super hard, and I don't think it's fully downhill. I think it's just net. But obviously, net downhill on trails is horrendous. She started with the Couch to 5K and has completed Kona and won the Ironman South Africa champs, or the Ironman Africa champs, which is in South Africa, in her age group. And he says she is a superstar in his eyes, and she's a superstar in ours as well.
Yeah. So
like that is amazing.
Yeah, so well done, Catherine.
Yeah, well done, Catherine, and good luck for the rest of the year. Hopefully you'll be doing another Ironman soon, and we can
Follow along.
Yeah, we can follow along and then meet at Kona, because that would be so fun. Yeah. So any more What the Bucks? Any shout outs that you want to give to other people, or if you want to shout out yourself, like, so here for that as well.
Yeah, I feel like shouting out for other people is a lot easier.
Oh, it's way easier to shout out about other people, but I want to challenge someone to shout out themselves. Be proud of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Own it. Just own it. It's so fun. I think we're probably done. Matt's eye hasn't exploded. I think it's actually getting less red.
That's, I don't know.
He's got a mirror in front of him. He's just checking it out.
We'll get some eye drops in.
Get some eye drops. And one of my orders from the doctor was to have dinner, a second dinner, another snack before bed. So I think I'm going to go and do that.
What are you going to have?
Well, it's got to be slow release carbs. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean I can just scoff a load of Haribo before going to sleep, because that will probably almost certainly have the complete opposite effect. I think I'd have a yogurt bowl with fruit. Maybe some honey just for lols, which is quick release.
Sounds delicious.
I think I'm going to do that.
Right. Well, we're going to do that, and everybody else can eat the.
Everyone else can have it with breakfast.
Listen with their breakfast or whatever they're doing tomorrow morning.
And we will see you next week.
Yeah, and thank you for, like I say, we've hit probably one of our biggest listeners last week.
Yeah, last week.
Well over 1,000, which is
amazing.
Wonderful.
And you're following us on Instagram. We hit 520. Thank you. And if you could give us a rating on Spotify, that would be massively appreciated, because Matt loves checking it. And he gets sad when it doesn't go up during the day. So make him happy, please.
It's been stuck at 49 for a while now.
Yes. Be our 50th.
But yeah, thanks again for listening. We really appreciate the support.
And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.